You're with Julian on the Brown Note and the two wars that are killing Biden in a year that is going to prove pivotal to America and the West, where everything is on the line. He's doing everything wrong in the middle of a cost of living crisis as well. But the two wars in Ukraine and in the Gaza Strip are just destroying his chances. I've been going on about this for a while, but I honestly didn't think that he'd just, I thought that the Ukraine thing would have wrapped up a lot quicker, but obviously pumping billions of dollars of arms in every month isn't helping that happen. And Russia are probably in a stronger position now than they were a year ago. But they're still pummeling. Yeah, every time they release a new budget proposal to help Ukraine, Biden loses support. And, we've now got universities across America protesting against the war in Gaza. This is not helping. If you look back to the 1960s, the last time there were massive war protests in American universities by American students against war, they elected the most right-wing leader this side of Donald Trump. That was, in those years of the height of the protests against the Vietnam War and the civil rights movement, Richard Nixon was elected because the right are unified against one thing, and this is just splintering the Democrats everywhere. Because there are so many Democrats now that are just like, we're not supporting genocide. Now, the irony here is the Republicans will immediately cut off funding to help Ukraine. And Putin knows this. And Putin will probably be at this stage extremely happy because he thinks that they'll probably pass another funding resolution to help Ukraine, and that's going to further weaken Biden and deliver his patsy Trump. And then that's gone. That's the end of the funding for Ukraine. On the other hand, the Republicans would massively oversupport Netanyahu's government. But they are using it now as a battering ram against him because a large proportion of the Democratic votes are wildly against the Netanyahu government and the war in Gaza. And Biden, even though he probably hates the man, and even though they're probably trying to put pressure on him, they're still sending them the bombs that are blowing up women and children in Gaza. And that's the optic, and it's a real one because it is true. And it's splitting their vote in a year they can't afford to lose. Because if Trump gets back in, that's potentially the end of democracy as we know it in America, and the ramifications for the Western world are colossal. And given that everything that's been far-fetched and mooted in the last 5 years has pretty much occurred, including Trump trying to overthrow the government, you don't think that he'll try and do it again? If he's in power, imagine what he'll do. We've got that Civil War film at the moment come out, but it's pretty 50-50 at the moment. Biden shouldn't be doing this. This is old school pre-Iraq thinking. This is him saying America is the defender of democracy and freedom, and no one in the world buys that after Iraq and Afghanistan. That's old thinking. He's using old, we are the sole repository of truth. And no one buys that anymore. So he's risking shedding votes that are going to be in a very close election. And when you've got people that are struggling to live in those blue-collar states, he doesn't need to lose many votes. Hillary Clinton famously lost, I think, something like 300,000 votes in 3 states were enough to have flipped the election either way. You don't do this kind of stuff. He shouldn't be doing it anyway. It's thinking from the 1990s to be doing what he's doing in support of these two opposite wars. I mean, the hypocrisy is for all to see. It is not helping anyone. And when you've got a cost of living crisis killing America's populace economically, to keep handing out $60 billion to Ukraine and Israel at the same time is just such a bad look. So he's, the fact that we've got this old guy again and they didn't bring anyone new through and they just co-opted all of the progressive elements that came up in the post-Bernie Sanders era and then sidelined them for the military-industrial complex, business as usual. The risk of business as usual has never been higher than it has been this year. And Biden's offering nothing. You know, he's now got these protests in American campuses are just going to grow and grow. And the authoritarian look isn't a good one for a Democrat to go against Trump with. There are so many sticks that the Republicans can batter. I thought the Republicans were pretty much dead and buried with Trump. But these two wars are really changing. The two wars and the cost of living crisis are really, really hammering the Democrats. And two of these things are completely unnecessary. In fact, they're actually... The war in Ukraine and the supply chain issues and everything are actually impacting the cost of living crisis globally on its own. And you've also got this large population in America that would naturally be Democrat voters that are not going to be inspired to go and support Biden like they did last time. So the Trump voters are all going to come out for Donald Trump, but Biden needs all of those Democrats to come out for him to beat that voting bloc that will vote no matter what for Trump. And there will just be people that have such a bad taste in their mouth, particularly Muslim Americans, that they won't want a bar of voting Democrat. They're certainly not going to be inspired to go out en masse. And then you've got the swing states that decide it each time. They're not going to be inspired to... They're probably just going to look and say, you're both as bad as each other, but screw you. Again, which is what they did last time with Trump.